Hello and welcome. This is Lisa Jones, and you are listening to the Exploring Death podcast. Hello and welcome to the Exploring Death podcast. Today, I have Elizabeth Phinney with me. She became a mom 30 years ago on August 24th, which happens to be today as we record this podcast. What timing? At that time, she was the founder and president of a multi-million-dollar management company for meetings and incentives in Boston, Massachusetts. This day, 30 years ago, she was in the middle of a 1,200-person program that repeated itself every 3 days over a period of 3 weeks. Her son, Blake, was born on that first day of the 8th program, or thereabouts. Fast forward 21 years and 3 weeks from that day. Elizabeth is a certified personal trainer, and her son, Blake, was between semesters at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. He was riding his bike that night to pick up some beer from the liquor store, a half a mile from his house, when he was hit from a car from behind and died instantly. Now, almost 9 years later, Elizabeth has grown into a dynamic speaker, trainer, and consultant for Fitness After 45, and her son is her guide and greatest support as she writes her first book. Elizabeth believes that her destiny and strength to pursue it are directly connected to the strength she gained from surviving the death of her son. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Hello, Lisa.
Oh my goodness, I have total body chills as I introduce you. And again, happy birthday to your son, and true condolences for the loss that you've endured.
Yeah.
Oh my
it's
goodness.
Quite something. Yeah. I always tell people when they say, "Oh my God, how do you do it?" And it's like, well, when he died, it was like here, and now it's about here. So you can still see around now much easier than you could before.
Right.
It's losing a child is truly the worst thing. As a matter of fact, the day after he died, where he died at night, so the next morning, my youngest daughter was 14 at the time. She posted it on Facebook, which is just bizarre to me. And but at 7:30 that morning, my 3 closest friends were at my doorstep and just said, "Okay, you're gonna shower, and we're gonna go out to Amherst." And I was like, okay, I can do that. Okay. So we did. And it was these women I will be forever grateful for, because as we drove out, like, the woman driving was the leader. She was in charge. She was, she had her job to do. She was going to get us there and take control. And then my other friend was in the back, and she was the friend. She was just, saying the right things and doing, like, we had to start calling people. And so we would go down and she would start to call people and everything. And then the third friend was behind me. She was the mom, and she kept hugging me. And, so it was quite interesting, the whole ride, because it's 2.5 hours to Amherst. And
oh my goodness.
It was fascinating. And we didn't know, none of us had ever lived through anything like this before. And so one of my friends had cancer. So we had been through cancer, the 4 of us, and now we're going through death of a child. So, okay. And everybody had their role. And, but I do remember the fascinating thing that is telling to what we're speaking about is that, on the way out there, first I wailed, and wailing really is a thing. I had no idea, but it just started to happen. And I wailed for about 20 minutes. And God bless my friends. They just let me, Mom was behind me, patting me, and friend was over holding my leg and everything. And driver, leader was just kind of stroking. So it was that was something. But anyway, so after that was all done, and an hour and a half later, I burst out laughing. I guess it was on the way home. I burst out laughing. And of course, again, pins and needles, everybody's kind of go, oh, okay, what's going on now? And I said, this is a parent's worst nightmare. And I'm living it. And then right away, I said, oh my God, I didn't know I was supposed to be this strong. And I knew that at that point, literally, I knew that my life was destined for bigger. I knew that I was being made strong to do something else. So that was And that was the day within 24 hours.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
so powerful. And I think absolutely true that none of us knew what we signed up for when we came down here.
Right.
And
Right.
and then every time something major happens, whether it's cancer or the loss of, like me losing my spouse or you losing your son, we realize, oh my God, like I didn't know I was here to do
To
this.
do this, right? This too, really?
That's right. And then we have a choice, right? You can choose to kind of accept the challenge and climb up that mountain and really figure out how this is empowering you, or you can make the choice to turn to drugs or alcohol or just giving up and not really pursuing, what we're here to do. So,
Well, and like, you had your kids to think about. I
right,
had my, the two survivors, I had them to think about, and how I reacted was certainly going to impact them. And
right,
that was one of my concerns, is that I wanted them to see, yes, you can break down. Yes, you can cry at the drop of a hat, and that's okay. And yes, I'm here for you and all that. But I had to make sure that they got the strength from it as well. And one of them is very much, the youngest one is really very strong on that way. She's very empathic. And so she and my son were Ike and Mike. They were soulmates anyway. The middle daughter, having a little bit more difficult time, but she's getting there, so it's trying to take the strength out of it, and whatever positives, God willing, you can take out of it to extract that and think that way.
absolutely. I think you're right. It's about choosing what you focus on, right? I mean, you can focus on the loss and what you're missing out on and what you're never going to have, and really spend your energy, because again, what you focus on expands, right?
Of course, yeah.
Or you can turn and look for those positives, be grateful for the two children that you have, and be grateful for the strength that you have to be able to be a role model in this situation. And certainly it's none of it. I mean, I certainly wouldn't have chosen to have my husband die, and I know you certainly wouldn't have chosen to have your son die. But
no.
But the fact is the facts, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think, people always would say to me, oh my God, you're so strong. And, you're just, you handled this so well. And I kind of was like, well, I didn't have an option. Like, to me, there was no other option.
It's like, I'm sorry, I didn't get the book.
Right.
And if I did, I haven't read it. So
Absolutely.
I'm not sure how this is supposed to be handled, but this is my version.
Exactly.
This is my version of losing a child.
That's right.
And everybody, like you say, I mean, the thing is that sometimes I think, God, you really could curl up in a ball.
Right.
And it would be justified, or you could wear it on your sleeve all the time, so that within 5 minutes of meeting anybody, they know that you've lost a kid. Because let me tell you, it gets a lot of sympathy.
Right.
And my God.
Right.
Child. And they can't imagine, and all that other stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's terrible. So again, you can play it however you want to play it.
Absolutely. And I remember too, being a widow, I mean, that gets a lot of attention as well. Sure. And a couple of things I know for a fact, I use that you kind of, when it first happens, you have nothing else to do but to be like, okay, I'm going to use this because, it's been granted to me or something. But then you realize, like, oh, this isn't the way. I don't want to be that, even the name widow, I don't even like the word.
Yeah, so you get a word. I don't get a word.
Yeah, you don't even get a word.
There's no label here. Maybe we could make up a word, Lisa.
Yeah, I think yeah, we definitely need a word for that, because I agree. It's harder when you don't have a word, but I don't know, the word, if you don't like the word, it's hard too.
Label. It's tough. And and we were talking about attending conferences before, and I remember going to one, and this woman, that was her thing. She was all about, I lost my child and I survived. And so everything she was doing, she was writing a book and all this stuff. And I thought, and of course, the people that we were with, as she was talking to our table, and I thought, none of these people know that I lost a kid, So it was really kind of interesting that her approach versus mine, and there's no judgment.
Right.
It's just different. That's how she's handling it. That's how, and it's also in the grieving process. I've chosen to be strong. I have chosen to look into the high points of what his death is doing for me. And now she's using her son's death as well, but to get her through writing a book. And that is her part of her grieving process, I am sure. And that's how she needed to go through it. That's why I said there's no judgment. It's just her way of doing it. While my way was much more of recognizing the empowerment, the fact that I had to be that strong, or that I was, what was the words? It was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be this strong.
Right.
And of course, my friends in the car said, huh? Like, you what? And I said, I'm going to survive my son's death. I said, how many people do you know have done that? And then I got to still do other stuff. Because I'm 9 years younger than I am now. So I was like a kitten. Well, kind of. And I still had so many things to do. And so that's why I knew that I had to look at this as something more positive. And also, as I mentioned to you, I've been reinforced. I've been reinforced through mediums and through I have a dear friend who's an amazing clairvoyant, and she came to visit once and told me that as she was driving here that Blake popped into the car. And I said, oh, and she said, yes, he really wants to talk to you. I said, okay. And she said, Sunday. Okay. So of course, as I had just finished, which would be so Blake, I just finished breakfast, all set, omelets are done. I put the plates down. She goes, he's here. I went, you gotta be kidding me. And she said, no, he's here. And I went, damn. I said, can we eat? No, he's ready. So then we said, eggs got cold and we sat down, and because it was a lot more information, because I told you, I communicate with him whenever we want to. And it's more fits and spurts. It's just kind of like, I'll ask a question, he'll answer the question, or he'll sit, like I was walking on the beach last week, and there weren't that many people. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning, and people were setting up to be on the beach. So it's going to be a hot day. And this boy was standing there, and he looked just like Blake when he was like 11. And I went, you want to talk to me? And he goes, yeah, I do. And I went, oh, okay, what's going on? So then we had just a mini conversation, and that's how I speak to him. But when my clairvoyant friend was here, she, she had a lesson that he wanted to give me, which was wonderful. And I was all for that. And it helped a lot. But his main thing has been for me is because I do fitness after 45, as you mentioned. And I've been talking about writing a book for 10 years. And so he's been, since probably a few years after he died, it's like, you gotta write the book, Mom. Just write the book. And as time has gone, and literally, he's right here. He's right over my shoulder. You got to write the book, Mom. And so as time has gone on, the first 5 years, I just kind of, it's like, yeah, I know. I'm going to write the book. And I talk about writing the book, and I never write the book. So finally he, and then he would get a little bit more adamant and use impolite expletives. And I would go, yeah, I know. So now this year, I'm writing the book. I'm in the process of writing the book. And so he's thrilled, because he kind of left for, he'd go away for 6 months, and because I wasn't writing, so why be here? So he came back, and, he's happy I'm writing the book, and he's happy with the book that I'm writing. So we're good with that. But I have to keep on writing the book to make sure that he doesn't get pissed off again and then go away. So I'm writing the book now. And and what he keeps saying, he literally, it's just, you just got to write the book, Mom. Just write the book. And what's that telling me is that really it doesn't have to be hard. I just have to write the book. Nobody else can write the book but me. I have to write the book, because the book it's my voice. And this is what I was meant to do. So, but the universe is taking care of the rest of it. I'm doing my diligence and stuff like that, but he's so emphatic about it, and it's with his tone, I know how much love is behind it, but he's really saying, just write the book. You don't have to worry about all this other stuff. Just write the book. So I'm writing my book.
That's wonderful. Well, I think it's a great message for everyone that has that desire to do something right in their life, whether it's write a book or, travel or
right.
move.
Or climb a mountain.
right. Just do it. Right.
Right,
Because
right.
I think ultimately we get so caught up in doing our human thing that we tend to neglect those whispers that we receive. I mean, you have an actual muse, you have your son there
Yes, right,
truly
right.
whispering, but we're all getting messages, to
Yeah.
be doing our life's work. And
Hmm.
so, do you want to share what the book is about? I'm sure people are interested
Sure,
if
sure,
you want to share.
absolutely. Well, the book was actually spurred on by my youngest. My youngest was born when I was 40. And so when I was 45, I realized that if she waited to 40 to have a baby, I'd be 80. And I thought, oh my God, I want to be healthy for that baby. I want to be on the floor with that baby. And I thought I better get in shape. So I started to work out. And I was a single parent. I had been a single parent at that point for 5 years. I mean, when she was only 3 months old when I moved to the town we're in now. And single parent, 3 kids, 4.5, 2.5, and 3 months old. That was the start. So I didn't want to work outside the home. I knew that because I was a latchkey kid before it was called a latchkey kid, and I didn't want that for my children. So I always wanted to work in the house. And when I started working out, a friend of mine said, you could do this for a living. So it was like, oh, and they said, yeah, be a trainer. It's like, oh, I could do that. So I studied and learned and started. And I was the only trainer in town. And we have a small summer community, a big summer community, small winter community. But being the only shingle as a trainer, but again, fitness over 45. I started at 45. This is because I couldn't find stuff for older bodies. I couldn't find the exercises being modified. I found exercises for 20-year-olds being done by 50-year-olds and without modification. And it was like, that was crazy. So I went through and I have 240 exercises that I've modified for the older body. And I've created a strength training technique called Bod Spear, and it's short for body spirit. And it's strength training in rhythm with your breathing. So it's meditative. And that's really, really cool. So I have a membership site and people can do the videos and everything online. But the book had to be written because most people, as I learned as the years went by in training, most people don't understand the control that they have over how they age. They just figure, as soon as you hit 80, you're really going to slow down, and maybe you might hit 90. And now more and more people, I live with my 95-year-old mother who's never going to die. She's just never going to die. And people were joking, oh, imagine at your 70th birthday, your mother will be 100. And I'm going, oh, please shoot me now. I mean,
well, just to interject, I had a 106-year-old grandmother, 103-year-old grandmother, and a 101-year-old grandfather. So it's certainly
Lord.
Possible.
It is. I know. But I live with her. It's one thing when they're, someplace I could go visit her.
Right.
Anyway, I digress. So I wanted, and I watched her decline. I mean, she physically is just a mess. Her mental is pretty good. But she's physically a mess. And through no fault of her own, bad surgery, hip replacement, wrong size prosthetic, and then it was awful. It's been awful for 5 years. So anyway, as I learned more and worked with more people, I just realized that you really, really, you can take care of this. You make the decision. I started asking people, how long do you want to live? Oh, I don't know. And I have my death age is 104. I want to make it to 104. And there's a woman, there's a Beatrice Wood, who was a sculptor in Ojai, California. She's very much my muse for aging, because she had a wonderful life and way ahead of her time. And she was very healthy when she died. So I'm thinking 104 looks good. And I plan on speaking and teaching and doing all this well into my 90s, because what else am I going to do? So I got a good 30 years to go plus. So therefore, and I have this little, my goal or my dream is me on a stage. I've just finished a speech, 1,000 people in the audience, standing ovation, of course. And they're all applauding and they're going, can you believe she's 95? And that's what I see. That's who I will be. And so my book is entitled Thrive to 95. And then a revolutionary approach to designing your physical future, because that's really what we have the capacity to do if we are willing. This is not easy stuff. If you really want to take control over how you age, it takes time, it takes dedication, it takes you got to get your heart into it. You got to want it. You got to really want it. And we are the same mindset as spiritually, and as far as what we say we are. And so I see no reason why I can't live to be 104. Absolutely not. And some people say, oh God, I don't want to live that long. And it's like, but if you're healthy, what if you felt the way you do now? Would you want to live longer? Oh, all my friends would be dead. Yeah, probably. Yeah, but your kids probably won't be. Your grandchildren, and maybe even your great grandchildren.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I love this. This goes right hand in hand with the conversation of exploring death, because people, they don't even want to look and just even imagine themselves being that old, let alone, like you said, thrive to age 95 and create your physical life. I mean,
right.
Why talk about the perfect, architecture to keep your body healthy and happy and functioning and
right.
and moving forward. Whereas, like you said, I think people just kind of think, I don't know, when they turn 70, 75, they just kind of give up and slow down,
or start to, if the one thing starts to go, or that, this starts to go, or they'll start to have something wrong with their hip, or their knees hurt. And it's like, but all that is fixable.
Right.
That's the thing. It's all fixable. But again, you have to work at it. You have to eat the right foods. I mean, that
Right.
is so key.
Absolutely.
Food is absolutely number one key. And then you have to exercise, and you have to hydrate, and
Right.
you got to sleep.
Right.
Those are and then meditation's really fun. I mean, that's a really good piece, because stress, what they're finding now is that people age because of what they've been eating and their lack of the things I just said. But how they handle stress. And so I've got this hair, there we go. So like we were saying, how you handled your husband's death, and how I handled my son's death. And my stress level is pretty good. It's just
Yes.
the woman downstairs, that makes that's really my only stress these days. But it's how we handle that, and meditation is a wonderful way. Walking in nature, another fabulous way, just to go and to take our time for ourselves, which is key. And I'm preaching to myself here too, because I'm not as good at that stuff as I should be. But,
That's right.
But yeah, but it's too important.
I love it. Well, I can't wait for your book to come out, because I certainly am going to be one of your first buyers of that, because I agree. I think as all of us are aging, and every single one of us is aging every single day, right? I mean, why not have a plan that you can look to help yourself be as happy and healthy and moving forward. And I've noticed, just from moving to Hawaii, which has been my lifelong dream, that everything is, I feel like I'm getting younger. I mean, you were commenting my hair being so long. I mean, I just feel so healthy and vital and connected to nature. I spend every morning, I go to the beach and do yoga and take a swim. And it's amazing how, by filling your soul with these things that you love to do, that it feeds, it's kind of a loop, right? It just, or a self-fulfilling prophecy, when you're feeding yourself all the good things, good food, meditation, nature,
absolutely,
then your body responds.
Yes,
so
exactly.
As opposed to being, a former corporate CPA sitting in a cubicle doing tax returns all day and talking to tax people. I mean, that was just life draining.
Right. For you.
Right. For
Some
me.
people
For me.
might love that.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
So it's, and we're all different. If you'd like to think that the huge universal plan of that we all have our role to play. And if everyone would just play the right role, things would go a lot more smoothly, right?
That is for sure.
But most people aren't blessed to know what their roles are. We're lucky. We're lucky. We get it. We get what we're here to do.
That's right.
But it's tough for a lot of people. But then again, I think our strength comes from the biggest losses that we have.
Right.
Right. And you don't want people to have to go through that.
No. Yeah. You don't want, absolutely. If people can learn from our experience, then all the better, because it's kind of like they don't have to feel the pain and the suffering that we've endured, and hopefully they'll just get all the benefits from our hard work.
Right.
And yet I believe also that everybody has their experiences, you know, whether it might not be as dramatic as
Right.
yours and mine have been, but we're all here having our own experience, and
Right.
it's so fun to connect with others, and it's like puzzle pieces, right? And you can just fortunately you can pick up other people's puzzle pieces, and then they can maybe fit right into your masterpiece.
And then every now and then you meet somebody, you go, okay, they haven't really had a lot of hard stuff going on. Can I just have a little bit of their luck, you know, just a little bit, just, you know, over this way. But you're right. I mean, we all have it's our own journey. And
that's right.
Regardless of what happens, it's how it plays out, how we handle it, and how, you know, having kids involved too.
For sure.
These situations happen, and how, and that was when that night when I got the phone, and this is the worst part, when I found out that he had died, I was on my phone, both of my phones, my cell phone and my landline, are on the first floor. I didn't have it. So my youngest daughter was living on the third floor. So she came down, she was waking at middle of the night. Of course, it's that middle of the night phone call, don't you know?
Right.
So she comes and she stirs me. She goes, Mom, Claudia's on the phone and she's hysterical. You've got to talk to her. So what had happened was my ex-husband had called our middle daughter in New York and said, I can't get a hold of your mother. You have to call your mother. And then he told her what had happened. He said, Blake died. And oh my God. So she called me. So imagine, she was 19, and she had to tell her mother that her son was dead. I mean, that to me. And of course, I years ago, one of my first careers, I was in the travel business, and I would take people all over the world. And one of the parts of training was going into calm. When havoc wreaks its ugly head, you go into calm. And so I immediately, when she was crazy, I went into calm. And I said, okay, sweetie, honey, you got to breathe. Okay, you're going to breathe, and you're going to, and she was just hysterical, literally hysterical. So I talked her down, because again, I'm a mom first. No matter what has happened here, I'm a mom. I got to get, and of course, the poor young one is sitting in my bed going, what's going on? What's going on? It was mayhem. But again, I was very calm. And so, okay, honey, you're going to need, you need a friend right now. So she, thank God, this wonderful guy from college was her dear, dear friend. And she called him, and he came and got her right away and just stayed with her. And I finally heard the story. As a matter of fact, this year, she was east. And so we went to Brooklyn to see her friend. And the three of us sat down, and he told us the story, because he remembered, needless to say, far more than she did. So that was really, it was a wonderful show of friendship and kindness at a completely impossible time. And the memory for her is just, you know, and the memory, one thing also is that we do every year, we do what we call Blake Fest. So after he died, it was in September. And so in October at Amherst, there was the first Blake Fest. So myself and my daughters and his cousin and went out to, and some friends went out to Amherst, and we celebrated the first Blake Fest. And then the year after, I said, okay, it's at my house next year. So then I had it every year thereafter. And so we had as many as 29 kids here once. Now, these are the kids with the mohawks and the tattoos and the piercings and the, you know, so that the memorial service was rather more like a costume party than anything else. But God bless them all. I mean, they were here, they were kids, they were 21, you know, as grown-ups, at least we had the resources to deal with the emotional upset. But these kids had nothing. And here I had no idea. He was like the center of this huge group of kids. And all of a sudden, it's like the core is gone. And so they're all just kind of out there. It was so sad to see, and again, how they dealt with their grief. And so years later, because they come back every year. And so it was fascinating. 2 years ago, finally, is when I exposed to them the lesson that I had learned. Every year we did a birthday cake, and everybody would light a candle and put it in the cake. And I would have a topic for the year. So one would be gratitude, or one would be loss, or, you know, some topic for the year. And so that year was strength. And I told them about the strength that I had gotten from Blake dying, and that I would not be as strong as I am had he not died. And they were all completely, befuddled. It was like, really? I'm like, yeah, I am a much, much stronger person. And I, explaining to them about how it's helping me on writing my book and everything else. So it was really good for them to hear, you got an age variance of 40 years here. So it's really good for them to put the death in different perspective, and I'm still friends. I mean, there are a handful of them now that I still see. I just got an email yesterday from one who's not in Petaluma, she's out in California somewhere. And she's coming east next year because it'll be 10 years. So we're going to do a 10-year Blake Fest, and his girlfriend is on Cape Cod. She and I are going to see each other in a few weeks, and another one is in Amherst, and so I'm in touch with all these kids, which is what, and actually his Boston friends, who has been married and has 2 kids, he and his wife asked me to be a surrogate grandparent for their 2 kids.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So I lost a son, and now I have at least a half dozen. So I'm okay. I'm good with that. And they allow me in their life, which is just wonderful. It really is.
Wow. I love that. And I love that you were able to express to them how the death actually, for lack of a better word, improved your life. It empowered. I love that.
It empowered. And that was shocking to them. And I got that. I did some art therapy. Like within the year, a friend of mine was an art therapist, and she said, "You want a session?" I said, "Yes, let's do this." So we did. And at the end of it, and this is like within the 2 years, I guess, of his death. And I was I was angry, and I was, not really good, not nice. But as I flowed through the session and I got to the end of it and I wrote it down, I said, I don't think that I would be able to move forward with what I am doing in my life if Blake hadn't died. So again, recognizing the strength that I needed to have in order to move forward in my life. So that was pretty dramatic.
Very powerful, very powerful. And I say a similar thing about the death of my husband. It really became the foundation of what I was able then to step up on, to have that platform to be able to share with others about how to move forward after the loss of a loved one, and how to embrace that, and how to come into more connection with the divine, and that there is this other side, and having the shared death experience that I had because of the night that he died. I was taken to heaven and shown him being welcomed, and that completely shattered all of my religious beliefs that I was brought up with. And currently now, co-leader of a group on Maui that talks to people about near-death experiences. And in fact, today I'm heading to their conference in Seattle. And I'm telling you, the connection with other people that have had this near-death experience has just transformed who I am in the last 6 months since I've been in contact, because I'm learning more and more about what's on the other side. And it's so exciting.
Yes. Well, I just finished Anita Moorjani's book.
Oh, I love Anita Moorjani.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Great book. And wonderful way of how she explained everything. And yes, I think that that's fantastic. Because again, people need to understand that. Right. They need to see, there's no reason to be afraid.
That's exactly it. There's no reason to be afraid. And there's no reason to be afraid. And when you do connect with this other world, I mean, like you connecting with your son, it just opens so much more that I didn't even realize was available to me or for me. Yeah. And so that's why I get so excited. I mean, sometimes I'm sure people must think I'm just this crazy death lady, but I mean, there's so much more.
Well, there is. Well, and it's like, but you have to be open to it.
Yes.
You have to be open to it. So I was, oh God, I don't know, 4 years after he died, I was in Las Vegas at a conference, and a woman who was a friend of mine, she's a spiritual healer, and another woman who's into all that stuff too. And so we went for a walk in the desert, and we found a hollowed out tree. Now, in my backyard, I have a hollowed out tree that Blake used to play in. right? Inside, he'd get inside the tree and he'd bring his toys in and stuff like that. So I said, oh my God, I have to go inside the tree. So I went inside the tree, and he was all of a sudden, Blake, now this was like one of the first really powerful experiences I had had. And he came and he was all around me, and the tears are just streaming down my face. I said, oh my God, he's here, he's here. And Tina says, that's nothing, look at that. And a monarch butterfly flew by in the desert in Las Vegas.
Goodness.
And it was like, whoa. So therefore, of course, I looked for monarch butterflies. Right. And now, as you know, there's a huge shortage of monarchs these days. So, and I had forgotten, I hadn't put two and two together. After he died that fall, the following summer, we had thousands of monarchs down at their beach. I live like a quarter of a mile from the beach. So we had thousands, and didn't mean, it was like, oh, this is really cool. But there was certainly no connection until Vegas. And it was like, oh my God. So since then, like, I was out in Connecticut visiting one of his buddies, and we went to the farmer's market, and it was outside, and about a year ago, actually. And so Johnny goes, God, look at that monarch. What a pain in the neck. Because the monarch is buzzing all around Johnny. And I said, oh, it's Blake. And he said, what? I said, it's Blake. He just wants to acknowledge, he's happy that we're together, and he's just acknowledging. And he goes, are you crazy? I said, well, yeah, a little bit, but it's Blake. And literally the monarch would not leave us alone. It was so funny. It was so Blake. But so several times, I could bore you with all the stories, but several times the whole monarch thing has happened, and it's quite wonderful. It really is. And a friend of mine, one of my clients actually gave me a fabulous book about monarchs from before they're born. And it's a calendar all the way through. So I've read through it calendar wise last year, as it's happening, this is what's happening with monarchs now. So now they're all mating. So Facebook, I found some mating monarchs in the neighborhood the other day. So I posted that on Facebook. So yeah, it's really, but I'm open to that stuff.
Yes. Well, that's the key.
The more special.
Right. Yeah. When you're open to it, then you see it, and then it's confirmation. Yeah. And meanwhile, like you said, people, if they're not open to it, well, that's fine too. That's they can do whatever they want. But to me, I love the mystery and the magic and the unfolding of things that just, I'm continually just mesmerized and surprised. And it's so much fun to, to be in this realm.
And it's entertaining.
It is.
And it's like when I was taking the walk and I saw this boy, and I thought, oh, Blake must want to talk to me. So it's like, okay, what's going on? But it was something I was open to it, and it just hit me. So
That's right.
I feel so fortunate to get all this.
Yes.
I get it, and to read about it, and to learn more about it, and to meet people like you who know more about it, to help me so that I know I'm not crazy.
Right.
Which helps a little.
It does. Because sometimes you start to wonder, like, am I really crazy? But then that's the thing, you can't make these things up, these things that happen. It's just, and I've stopped actually, I used to, just say that all the time. And now instead I embrace the miracle that it is,
Absolutely. Yeah. So. And it's wonderful because there are more and more and more of us crazies.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. We're going to band together.
Yeah.
Well, let me pull some cards for you. How about that? I think that's a good
cool.
time.
I love it. Yep.
Let's do a little reading and see what Spirit has. Speaking of signs and synchronicities and all sorts of things. So, okay. It's always so fun. All right. So, well, the first one, this is funny. Usually the first one is the blockage card, which is playfulness, which I don't know, that doesn't really make sense to me because we're being so playful about this, but maybe it's just even more. I mean, we think we're being playful, but I think Spirit wants us to know is this is just the tip of the iceberg of the comedy and the playfulness that Spirit has for us and with us. What do you think?
Well, I think that based on what we've been talking about, that we have to go there. We have to allow it to be playful.
Yes.
That to me is the confirmation.
Yes.
That the track we're on is exactly the track to be on.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. I love it. Yeah, you're right. I think that's where the block is not that, we're blocked per se, but just the message for people listening right now that,
right.
they're the playfulness. And that's what's so funny. Even when I've done the stage shows and I'm just channeling, I mean, they're comedians. I mean, they say the funniest things and
my God,
you can't make it up. Like I said.
No, you can't. And they love it when they're funny.
That's right. Oh, I know. Yeah. They just think it's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Well, so the action card is grace, which I just love. So, the grace is just allowing, right? Just allowing for each one of us to be where we're at in each and every moment, and to not expect, to not be grasping, to not just I think for me, I'll speak for myself, that sometimes I want things to be different, like, I wish my husband hadn't died, or I wish, this hadn't happened or that hadn't happened, but it's just the grace that's happening. Each and every moment is perfect in and of itself. And I love that you've been able to embrace your son's death to truly the point of realizing that you wouldn't have had the life that you have now if he had been alive. And and not that it is right or wrong. It wouldn't be what it is.
Right. Well, and to recognize, and my youngest and I have, because they were soulmates. There was no question. My youngest and my oldest, they looked alike, Blake and Blair, right? Their names. Right. But she was saying that, I just lost it.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay. I lost it.
Okay, they were soulmates.
They were soulmates.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I'll go back to the grace thing.
Sure.
That was something.
Yeah.
Is that with the grace comes the acceptance and recognizing that this is about transition.
Yes.
They go away from the physical life, but they're here. They're just in a different plane.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And so it's not that they're not here. We just can't see them. But they're always here. And so his grace for me is always around. And I like that. And it helps me to feel at peace. Yes. And he and my youngest, I mean, she's, I keep trying to push her, direct her into the woo-woo world, and she's like, no, not me, not you, and she's empathic. And it's like, she has hour-long conversations with her brother. Okay. Wow. So, that's not me. And it never will be, and that's okay. I'm good with him over here. But yeah, she has. So, I just, to understand that however they are able to communicate with us, we're still here.
That's right.
And they're not. We can't see them, but they're there. They're always there. Their grace is there. So that's, to me, is the word grace, is just their presence and their foreverness. I love it. Around, because they were a blessing in our lifetime,
right?
For however long they were here.
Exactly.
And now they're not. I know. I was going to say that. This is it. So when my son was here, he never really had ambitions about, what are you going to be when you grow up? He never knew. His father was trying to push him into the film business, and. But he really didn't have any particular, there was nothing he was crazy about at all. And of course, so my youngest is always just saying, well, Mom, he knew he wasn't going to be here long. So why have all that stuff fill up your brain if you weren't going to use it anyway? It's
wow.
Like, oh, okay. That makes sense. But his life was hard. This is something else that I think is important. His life was really hard. His whole life. I mean, at 4.5, I left his father, and his father and Blake were like, they were so intertwined, because that's how his father made it. And so the every other week visitation, he made it even more that way. And it was a negative talk about me. It was a nightmare. So as Blake got older and older, it was always, he's going to go live with his dad when he's 12. So he did. And in the meantime, I had gotten married, and that wasn't good, but his dad, it didn't work. And so that made it even worse. So we had, drugs and alcohol and suicide attempts and psychiatric hospitals and expulsions from school and into a special school and another special school and then a residential facility. And I mean, it was just, And finally, when his senior year in high school, his cousin, who was an adult at that point, his cousin stepped forward and said, I will take him. And so he took him for a year. And Blake went back to high school and graduated on the honor roll, because he wasn't dumb. He just was a pain in the butt. And and that's how we got into UMass. And so everything was tumult. And then he met this woman at school, and he found his heart again, because his heart was broken at 4.5. And when he found her and he fell in love, and he knew it was love. I mean, she was amazing. And as I say, she's still in our lives. He was done. He was done. It was time. I mean, literally, when he and she made the decision to stay together and everything, it wasn't even 2 months before he was dead.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were going to travel Europe. I mean, it was just, and she's brilliant also. And it's so, my heart so breaks for her.
Mm-hmm.
So still, it's really, it's just, I'm so sorry for her, because this wasn't her plan.
Right.
She envisioned being with Blake for the rest of her life.
Right.
And that didn't happen. So, but I of course, the next day I told her, I said, you gave him love.
Mm-hmm.
It might have taken him 80 years to find love, and then he would have died. But that was his journey. And this time he was here to lose love, have his heart broken, and find his heart and trust again. He needed to trust. And so he was done.
That's beautiful.
That's why he left. Yeah. So that's, anyway.
Wow. Beautiful. Well, and I'll just say the last card, which I feel like just, goes with that, is emerging.
Oh.
And I feel like, that's what you just described, right? I mean, it's really the path of the soul, right? It comes to earth, heartbroken, it regains its heart, and then, emerges into the next realm, but it's still here. Yeah. We're all one.
It's still here. I know.
Right.
I know.
Right.
And it participating in everything. Well,
Absolutely.
And also my emerging.
Yes.
With the book and on the global stage and everything else that is happening in my life.
That's right.
Those cards were fantastic.
Aren't they great? Well, and it brings me back to the grace as well of you allowing the death to really build you up, the grace of that death. And then, like you said, emerging out of that and being fully, the more powerful you.
Yes. But also playing along the way.
Yes. But
being
having
playful,
fun.
Right. You got to have fun, because if it's not fun, they're not going to do it. Right.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Well, this has been amazing. What a great conversation. Do you want to, do you have a website or something? I'll have the links, but also go ahead and state it here.
Website is simple. It's fitnessafter45.com. And I've got an ebook there, and I've got tons under about and resources. I've got a ton of webcasts and podcasts and videos and courses that I've taught and stuff like that. So if anybody wants to have nothing to do some rainy afternoon, there's a lot to watch.
Fabulous. Wonderful, wonderful. And we'll be looking forward to your book. I'm sure you'll be posting that on your website as well. When that's question. Available. So exciting. Well, Elizabeth, this has been wonderful. Happy birthday to your son, and happy giving birthday to you. I mean, we're not the, just because the child is born, it's also a huge day for us for what our body went through and what we produced that day.
No kidding. Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about that. 30 years ago, it was like, whoa, I do remember that day.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. So thank you so much, Elizabeth. I so appreciate your time, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for listening to the Exploring Death podcast. And until next time. Thank you for listening to the Exploring Death podcast. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any financial or legal decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Exploring Death. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.